Hello and welcome. After months of confrontation and weeks of intense diplomacy, Washington and Tehran may be approaching a decisive moment. US President Donald Trump says a deal with Iran is in near final form and could be signed as early as this weekend in Europe. Reports suggest the proposed agreement may include sanctions relief, the release of frozen Iranian assets, and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. But despite the growing optimism, Tehran insists that no final agreement has yet been reached, warning against speculation while negotiations continue. At the same time, tensions remain high at sea. India has formally protested to Washington following attacks on commercial vessels near Oman, while the United States and Iran continue exchanging accusations over maritime security in the Gulf. So are we witnessing the beginning of a diplomatic breakthrough or merely a temporary pause in a crisis that remains far from reach? This is All 24 News special coverage just after the jingle. And to help me discuss all these latest developments in the Middle East, I'm joined tonight by Mr. Mohammed Krissesi. He's a geopolitical analyst and financial expert. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed Krissesi, for accepting our invite.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. So, from a ceasefire to agreement, President Donald Trump says a deal has effectively been reached and could be signed within the next days, while Iran's foreign ministry insists that no final agreement has yet been concluded. How do you interpret these apparently contradictory messages from Washington and from Tehran? Are we generally approaching a breakthrough, or are both sides managing expectations before a final decision?
Well, as an international relationship analyst, I think the most useful way to try to understand the current situation between the US and Iran is to separate the political messaging that you are hearing from Mr. Trump, all this trumpeting, I don't want to use another word, but the false news and false statement, etc. And to separate that for the political messaging, as well from Iran, by the way, to the actual diplomacy. So what does Trump says when he says the deal is almost done, while Iran say no agreement exists yet? Meaning what? Meaning they are negotiating, which is, as I said, is not unusual in international negotiation. Leaders often speak to different audience. The only problem that you are facing here between Iran and US is Trump cannot be trusted. Trump now doesn't have any credibility whatsoever. Don't forget, just to remind our audience, that 3 ceasefire were signed. And while they were negotiating, while they were ceasefire, Mr. Trump was, as the commander-in-chief of the Army of America, he was saying, okay, go ahead and continue the bombing of the target in Iran. So therefore, now President Trump has publicly suggested that the deal is closed and has described it as an emerging framework that will extend the ceasefire for 60 days, as he was announced before, and also to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and begin further negotiation on Iran nuclear program. When Iran officials, what they are saying is, however, this was stated by Mr. Trump, but you have us to state that no final decision has been made, and that important issues remain unsolved. And the important issues, Tehran has erected emphasis that you not cross the red line. And I'm sure, Yani, that they talk about the nuclear situation.
Of course.
But now, this position, Trump has shifted so many times during the talks. So now I don't know what to say when I look at it as an analyst of international relationship, because this reflects the classic, as I was saying, bargaining and strategy. Each side, Trump as well as Iran, tries to maintain leverage by avoiding the appearance of making concession too early. Here, the main thing, and I'm sure we are talking about it, is the face saving. But in another hand, we have to recognize that the narrative now is on the side of Iran, not anymore on Trump. But again and again, it's not unusual that when you're in tractation, this kind of thing happen.
So Trump has gone further. He described the agreement as a very strong agreement and suggesting that the final text is nearly complete. So does this indicate that the difficult negotiations are largely behind us, or could the most challenging issues still lie ahead?
Well, it's very difficult to give you a straight answer.
Yes.
Because, for me, as an analyst, the ceasefire is not even a ceasefire, it's just stop bombing. Because all the rest, it's open. We didn't have anything concrete to say that, yes, the ceasefire is here. We are going to go to Geneva, as they said, and sign it. No, I don't think it's the case. The case is they agreed to stop bombing because, number one, Trump, don't forget the 60 days when they will come at maturity, it will be almost 2 months from the election in America. And this is a very, very important element of analysis for Trump, because now it's maybe I'm going out of the question that was asked by you, but we are here very close after the maturity of the 60 days to the election in America. Therefore, Trump, he realized that 75% of America, they are against this war by proxy for Israel. That's number one. Number two, a lot of MAGA people who did elect Trump, it was because he promised that he's not going to be the man of war, but the man of peace, and he's going to stop the Ukraine war after 1 day, and except now he's the president that did more war than all the president combined. Cuba, Greenland. He want to talk, associate Canada. Now he bombarded Nigeria. Now he went to, of course, the straw that now make him a great commander-in-chief. It was Venezuela. Venezuela is a small country.
Yeah. So
Iran
also,
is 95 million. Is the 5,000 years of civilization. So how can you negotiate this way with the foreign minister of Iran, who knows perfectly the critical thinking of America? He knows that his forte is a dictator for Hormuz because of the
and the Iranian foreign minister, Mr. Sassi, Abbas Araghchi, Iran's foreign minister, says an agreement with Washington is closer than ever, but he said also, he talked to the media and urged them not to speculate about its contents until it's finalized. What does this tell us about Tehran's confidence in the process, in the negotiations with Washington this time again?
If I want to give you an answer, very diplomatic answer, he is a great diplomat because he didn't say what he's thinking. But in reality, and here I am an analyst, I am not a diplomat, the reality is the foreign minister of Iran is saying, no, we are not going to sign anything as long as you are doing what you are doing. But you have to be diplomatic. Why he is addressing to the media? What did he say to the media, the foreign minister, Mr. Abbas Araghchi? I hope I'm not distorting him. He said that the media, and now I'm quoting, he said the media should not speculate until the content is finalized and is actually a very, very important diplomatic signal. Which means what? It means I have anything to say. And the media should not report something that doesn't exist. And now, academically, if I want to be an academic, he's saying that, this, for me at least, it can be understood that through negotiation theory, the audience is a cost theory because, the pricing is very expensive and nothing was done to stop the war. And the Detroit of Hormuz is not totally open. So you have a public discussion that locks both leaders in a certain position. And this position is very, very difficult because they have to mobilize themselves against the concession from one to another. For Trump he come with a big stick, he comes from the big guy and say, I'm going to hit you if you don't do what I want to do. And Iran is saying, no way, we are not going to submit to what you are saying. We are not going to be coming to you naked without you give us also some concession. And this is why now we have expectation on both sides, but they have to become realistic, because up to now they are unrealistic on the side of Trump. He cannot ask to get the plutonium. He cannot ask to stop the nuclear search. He cannot stop to say the Detroit of Hormuz is mine. No, even it's an illegitimate war here.
Yes.
And now, if I can just finish about Mr. Agashi, his message for me, the way I read it, is very essential because he says, do not treat draft, do not leaks, and do not do political statement as a final agreement because Iran has repeatedly stated that much of the text we are negotiating, we are not agreeing upon it. But that's why he doesn't want to say that to the media to go and talk and say that the final decision is made like they are doing here in America. But when I look at Al Jazeera or even BBC, they said, no, it's not done. Go ahead.
Yes, so we have many reports coming from the United States citing Iranian media indicate that the draft agreement contains 14 articles, including the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, sanctions relief on Iranian oil exports, and the release of frozen Iranian assets. If those reports prove accurate, so how significant would such a package be economically for Iran?
Well, the economical significance of the sanction relief is substantial, really substantial sanction relief, if they were implemented. But it will be, the causality will be an economic significance, yes. It will be considerable, yes. But now it's not done yet. But if it's done, the causality, the good causality, the good side of it for the economy, you are going to have an increased oil export. You have to have an access to the frozen asset, which Iran are asking for. We talk about more than 20 billion, I guess. And you have also, you will involve, if this sanction are relief, you will involve the investor confidence. And in economy, the country risk is enormous. So here, the investor will have a confidence and they could provide important economic recovery if it's done. But businesses and investors, they are looking typically to see whether agreement prove to be durable before committing significant resources. And this is why, for example, the cost of the maritime to move the goods in the cargo is more than, it was 45%. The last time I talked about it, which is 3 or 4 days, now it's up to 63%. And this cost is going to be directly put in the price that you and I are going to pay at the counter. Now, is going to be a follow-up? Well, as I said, the immediate effect will be likely the psychological and financial effect that will give us a larger structural benefit and will emerge over the months, hopefully over the months, rather than I was hoping to have a few days. But again and again, the Strait of Hormuz is there. Yeah, go ahead.
And maybe it's going to give a little bit of relief to the international economy. So we have also some reports saying that the draft also includes a 60-day framework for negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. So this period, how important is that timeline politically for both sides, for Iran's side and also for the United States? United States side, sorry.
When you said, and your report, you're saying is absolutely right, it's a very good question, but unfortunately, the 60-day nuclear framework, we are talking about that for how many days, how many months, I was going to say how many years, until the Obama Accord, but this Obama Accord, and when Trump came, he put it back in the, on the side. Why? These 60 days nuclear framework, I am very skeptical about Mr. Trump. And Iran, they have the right to continue because here we have, for the last 40 years, Mr. Netanyahu going to the UN and saying that Iran is going to have the nuclear power in 2 weeks. It was 40 years ago. And here, without any good reason, Netanyahu succeeded to push Trump to do the war that you have going on now for 3 months. So therefore, this limited timeline, for me at least, the 60 days that you are talking, suggests a phase, maybe an approach, rather than a comprehensive settlement that is going to come to birth. Now, I think this is often how difficult negotiation proceed, particularly regarding the nuclear question. And if the parties, Iran and United States, would like to stabilize the situation, they have to build confidence and then address more controversial issues. Or here, Trump, even now, today's, again, his court, his surrounding, his team, they were saying Iran should not have the nuclear power. And they are using this excuse because Iran doesn't have the nuclear power. They are using this excuse, and this is why it makes very, very difficult for me. It is very difficult for me to believe that the 60 days nuclear framework is going to sustain. And I'm afraid, again and again, I'm usually very optimistic, but I'm afraid that this alternative is not there yet because they are not attempting really to solve every disagreement. And this is what produced today, and I'm sorry to say that, is a deadlock in that negotiation regarding the 60 days.
Yes,
right,
you also know, Mr. Krissesi, that Iran has a big arsenal of ballistic missiles that has been using and have been used to protect and defend itself, according to the Iranian officials. And many analysts are saying that the discussions with the American side on Iran's missile program would be excluded definitively from any future negotiations. Why is that detail particularly important for Iran?
Well, here we have it. Not only America attacked Iran, not only America proposed a ceasefire and break it, and now America wants to kill all the deterrent that Iran possesses, which is missile. If the Iranians accept to stop their program, they are going to be naked, and they are going to be subject to any kind of aggression and not defending themselves. Don't forget, again and again, we take an example of the 12 days war. Why Israel was going to Trump, I talk about June 2022, I'm sorry, June, the 12 days war in June 2025. Israel went to Trump and say, we need a ceasefire immediately. Why? Because they were not expecting that arsenal of Iran. That's number one. Number two, they were not expecting the precision with which they have the target, and they were basically all civilian or military. And they were not expecting that their domes, this impenetrable dome that cost billions to me as an American taxpayer, it was like a Swiss cheese. Therefore, yes, Trump is asking, and Israel is within, I'm sure, whispering in his ears, we have to say to the Iranians to stop this missile. They have, I think, now it's very difficult to have the right number, but it's something like 3,000 to 3,500. Yeah, but again and again, when you do negotiation, you have to have trust. But Iran is in such a position that you have two things that they use as deterrent. They don't have the military power of America. And I always take the example of Algeria. Military power by itself cannot win. Algeria was under the first power of the world. Military, they were 10 times or 20 times. We just have no cannon, no aviation, and we beat the French after 130 years.
Yes.
Here is the same. They have the power, but they cannot afford to put soldiers on the ground, number one, because this will not be acceptable for the American. And number two, even now with the war in Ukraine, with what they give to 3 months to Israel and to themselves, they cannot sustain it because they don't have it. It takes time to build missiles. So therefore, Iran, as I said before, they know the mentality, they know the critical thinking, they know very well their enemy, which it was not the case, neither Israel or America. They make a big miscalculation when they were attacking Iran. Maybe Trump was under the drug, he was stunned because he was in Venezuela. Within 24 hours, he get Venezuela. Iran is not Venezuela. He was in Venezuela in 24 hours because one of the generals, very close to the president of Venezuela, get on the other boy, become a traitor. Iran is not that. They are very resilient people. My goodness, I always say the same thing, but I have to repeat it for the audience. Iran and America, it was always the enemy. 1953, Mossadegh, when they do the nationalization of the oil. 1979, 2006, 2025 and 2000. And they cannot. And in between 7 years with Iraq and the GCC that were nourishing the devil of this attack against Iran, and they didn't succeed. Do you think Iran is going to be the submission of servitude, like Etienne de la Boétie was writing? Never.
Yes.
Never.
And let's go back to some statements also coming from the United States. President Trump said publicly to the media that he dismissed details leaked by Iranian media, saying there were no resemblance to what was agreed upon in writing. What does maybe this tells us about the level of trust between the two sides, between Washington and Tehran, in many files to sign this agreement in their negotiations, which will end by the signature of this agreement, maybe?
Well, if I want to be academic, I can go on and on with the trust and verification. But let me make some humor here. When I look at this negotiation between Trump and the Iran, in one hand you have a Pinocchio with a big nose. He's lying every word that he's saying, and the next 30 seconds you have, and on the other side you have the Iranian, and the Iranian, they master the book of Machiavelli, which is Discours to the Prince. They master the book of Clausewitz, The Art of War, and they master the Chinese famous book, when they say, your enemy, you don't submit to your enemy. Show them that you are stronger, even if you have only one man standing. And this is exactly what's going on here. Now we can go back to the trust and verification. When you have Pinocchio and Machiavelli, who do you think is going to win? Machiavelli is on all the table of all the military academy in the world, even in Algeria. And here you have this greater obstacle, that is trust and verification, and the drafting agreement. Whatever Trump say, I cannot trust. If I have to bet on Iran or the foreign ministry of Iran or Mr. Trump, I will bet on the foreign minister of Iran. I'm not taking side here to say that you have to do this and this. No, I am for the justice. I am for the truth. Give me the right information. Stop lying to the world. America is not the big stick that you have like before. For the lie, look what they did. The lying that you have about Iraq, it was also because of the nuclear power. You remember Powell when he was at the United Nations showing this plastic thing? Say, yeah, they have it. And then what happened? And then you go to Iraq. They didn't win. They went to Afghanistan. They didn't win. They went to Korea a little bit before, and without forgetting Vietnam. When did they win with their armament, and when did they stop lying when they were doing war?
Let's ask this question also about a very important point that we maybe missed to mention. Here is the Strait of Hormuz again, which the Iranian officials say the security of the Strait of Hormuz depends on the unrestricted export of Iranian oil and gas. What does that mean? Should that statement be viewed as a warning, a negotiating position, or both?
Well, I think here, Iran, even though the international law doesn't apply to that part of the world, the proof is Gaza is a genocide and nobody wants to recognize it except Algeria, and Algeria are fighting for it in the Security Council. But this being said, the Strait of Hormuz is in with the law of the international water, 12 miles. And then that's the law. And even the law said, you have the 12 miles, but you can extend it to another 12 miles. Oh, it's 25 miles. So therefore, legally, the Strait of Hormuz is Iranian. Now, of course, Iran is going to use it. There is no negotiation about that with Iran. This is the heartbeat of their economy. Not only for them, but 90-95% of what they are producing come through the Strait of Hormuz. And 50% of the oil in the world, not maybe 50%, but I think is something like 40% or something, that, come through the Strait of Hormuz. How can they negotiate that, Yassin? It's not a question of either or. This is mine, this is mine, Iran, this is something that is recognized. And don't forget, even us, as Algerians, you have to remember les accords Algiers Accords in 1975 between Iraq, and at that time it was between Iraq, Iran, and Algeria. Yes. It was signed in Algeria. I'm sorry, I go back a little bit in history. Just to be clear that the Middle East, always and always, on a question of international law,
Yes, thank you so much,
background.
Mr. Mohamed Krissasi. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of our special coverage time. I thank you so much for all your insights and valuable contribution. And the diplomatic signals between Washington and Tehran may be stronger than any point in recent months, but major questions remain unresolved. Whether this momentum produces a formal agreement or gives way to renewed tensions will have profound implications not only for the Middle East, but for global security, energy markets, and international trade. For now, all eyes remain on the coming days. I'm Yassine Rikti signing off. Thank you for your kind attention. See you next week.